Hello, Mike Harding. Hey, I'm continuing the series of these recordings. These were all sessions and demos that we did recently at the within the Microsoft booth at the HPE Discover Show in Vegas. But because we didn't record any of these at the time, I'm just going back and just doing some quick recordings, give you the highlights, and more importantly, really point you to relevant resources. So in this case, I wanted to delve into something that actually is kind of a work in progress still, in all honesty. SQL Server, hybrid cloud analytics for AI that we're doing, with the X10000. So let me just kind of talk through what we're trying to achieve and what the whole thing means in terms of the architecture and everything. But the situation really is the same for all of our SQL Server um, solutions. SQL Server is still very dominant in the market. Nothing's changed there, so it definitely is still a great place for you to be investing in. You can feel confident about that. As you can see here, it's like Microsoft's they're still realizing majority kind of market share, and this is both counting both on-prem and cloud-based licensing, and the drivers for the SQL Server market really are as relevant whether you're talking about this sort of analytics view that we're looking at, as well as just in general. So more data, more performance required, need for a hybrid cloud interop. And SQL Server 2025. May have mentioned this in a previous demo or session, but it's new. It's just now in public preview. We've been engaged with Microsoft for this for some time, and there are a lot of new features in this version that are specifically related to AI as well as analytics. And there are some things that are going to make our lives actually easier in terms of doing this one particular analytics use case. And specifically, it's around the way SQL Server connects to unstructured data. And so in the past, everything was through this poly-based connection if you wanted to access external data, but be able to manipulate it natively and do your T-SQL directly against that. Now with SQL Server 2025, you can work with Parquet, CSV, and Delta data types natively without having to do any sort of transformation on that data, or without having to use Polybase and taking the performance hit from that regard. But a lot of goodness in SQL Server 2025. Totally recommend that you start playing with it if you haven't already. As I mentioned, we've been working with Microsoft now for the past year or so, and they kind of called us out and gave us some love in a recent presentation. This screenshot here is courtesy of Microsoft. It's from one of their recent presentations, just calling out the customers that are the partners that they've been working with on SQL Server 2025. All right, so in terms of database needs, I mean, HPE really delivers a lot of goodness for all of your SQL Server, whether it's in terms of availability, performance, data efficiency, and then the breadth of solutions. So that's all very consistent and relevant for what we're doing here with this one. But let me drill into this one use case, and we're talking about using SQL Server within a hybrid cloud analytics oriented use case. And as I said, this is something that's kind of a work in progress because we started doing this a while back on an early version of one of our new products and hit some bumps. And so we kind of continued and kind of just kind of put some of that in hiatus, and now we're kind of circling back to it. But the basic idea here, the premise is really about being able to use SQL Server and accessing unstructured data from some sort of object storage platform. And it really wasn't really a new idea in that we were engaged with Microsoft on this idea a year or so ago. And we ended up setting them up to work with our partner Scality. And so they were able to demonstrate this environment. It was very centric to Azure. So it was, Azure SQL, doing things with Fabric and then connecting through an S3 connection to Scality environment. And here we're really talking about the same thing, except we're just changing the center of gravity, if you will, to an on-prem environment with SQL Server on-prem primarily, but then connecting to the cloud for, once again, for Fabric and for doing, AI analytics related work up there, mirroring the database, but also maintaining the connection to an S3 compliant data store. So that's the basic yin and yang of what we're doing here. I can drill into the kind of the topology of it. As I said, it's very centric to SQL Server, and it can be now SQL Server 2025, and I probably should just update that. but it's SQL Server on-prem in what would be a pretty traditional stack. Could be ProLiant Compute. This would be the B10000. So we're talking about block storage for that SQL Server environment. So that should be pretty standard and familiar. Where it gets different is that now we're talking about making that connection to, it would be, imagine this as like an on-prem data lake with, all or some of that data residing on the X10000. So this is our new object storage platform. So we're really accessing data that's living on that. So there's no real performance issues with the SQL Server itself. That master instance is sitting on that, traditional stack. But now we're making a connection. As I said, it could be through Polybase, or depending on the data format, it could be more direct. But we're getting data off of that data lake and working with it. So that's the basic idea there. And then in terms of the hybrid cloud, SQL Server 2025 has built-in data mirroring. Actually, some of this I think I had previously as well, but there are features within SQL Server itself that allows you to mirror that database, maintain pretty much near real-time connectivity or updates of the changes. And then with that data up in the cloud, let's say it's in one lake environment, you can then be using Fabric on that, and be doing one of a number of host of AI related things with that data. So less about the data, the AI piece of it. This is really more about the infrastructure and just showing you how we can enable the infrastructure components in order to achieve these higher level actions. And the other piece of this then would be the S3. So the X10000 is going to enable an S3 compliant connection, and that would also be another means to connect to that data. So if you think back with what Microsoft did, we really can duplicate that whole thing now with the X10000 X3 compliant object storage for that, as well as this on-prem connection and some permutations of enabling that connection to the cloud in order to access the services up in Azure. So that's the basic idea. And as I was saying, this is like something kind of a work in progress. We're really kind of talking it through conceptually at the show. But continue to kind of work out as we get the latest components available in our environment, and be able to show this actual working POC. This is what the physical environment would look like. So it's as simple as a ProLiant compute connected through fiber channel for the block storage, then through Ethernet for the object storage. All right, it's a little more about the X10000. Actually, lots been published on this already, so I'm not going to do it justice, but as an object storage, it's really positioned to be more about performance-oriented object storage, as well as supporting like a range of scalability. So as little as like 100 terabytes up to 6+ petabytes. So you get some flexibility there as well. And a little more about the X10000. Oh, actually, probably here it can call out where, because I did allude to the fact that we've been working with this now. So with the R1s, the initial version, they were really looking to deliver an object storage platform, really for basic object like performance oriented, for unstructured data lakes, fast restore, native. Cloud native app development, et cetera, whatever. R2, which is the next version, which was really released this year, and this is really what we're kind of targeting our work on, really more capabilities around, AI, deep learning, machine learning, and more in the way of analytics. And so that's where we're kind of picking up the release train there. All right. Probably not much else to share other than just talking about Arc enabling. So that's really kind of a key technology in this Microsoft stack. So like, how do you get the Windows environment and the SQL Server to easily connect up to Azure? It's really through Arc enabling. And so we've shown this in previous white papers, how simple that is. I mean, it really is just as simple as a radio button to turn on. So with, when you're, putting in this environment with Windows Server and SQL Server, if it already wasn't connected, it really you could just very simply just onboard the Windows Server with SQL Server instance there. Could take as little as 10 minutes to get it connected, and with the Arc enabling, I mean, assume that you're already set up in Azure. to Arc enable these additional environments, that doesn't really cost you anything. What really costs is going to be those additional services that you would use with, up in the Azure environment if you wanted to run Defender or monitor or backup or whatever these Windows resources on-prem. But Arc enabling itself is just a very powerful feature. Allows you to, get one view of all these different resources, whether they're on-prem or in the cloud, and then do what you will with them. So it's kind of it. So in summary, as I said, it's kind of a work in progress, but SQL Server, just want to be able to show, SQL Server, your traditional SQL Server, being able to easily connect to an object store, data lake in this case on our X10000s for doing a host of things, but ideally enabling some AI related work up in the cloud. And we will get some of this published and rolled out to you as we go along. We have already a lot of stuff out there already, so hopefully you've been availing yourself to what we've done in the past already for performance testing or white papers, reference architectures, etc. They're all online there for you to use. Why HPE is a lot of goodness that we deliver to the SQL Server environments, availability, performance, efficiency, and we do have that proven track record and a lot of close work we've been doing and will continue to do with Microsoft. So you can feel confident what we're doing. And then, there's a lot of things we do beyond SQL Server, whether it's with Windows Server, Hyper-V, Exchange Server, Azure Local, etc. So look to us for more fun stuff on Microsoft solutions. It's all available to you online, or much of it is at least, through hpe.com/storage/Microsoft. Thanks a lot.